We're back, and it's time for the hottest new anime for ages 8 to 16 of the modern era. What, the manga's over already? What do you mean? Didn't the show come out like 3 years ago? 2016! I gotta pay more attention to anime. I'm in a touch, man. Man, I swear Time got a personal trainer or something because that shit's moving way faster than it used to. Time is looking felt lately. Anyway, my background with the show is as follows. I think I watched the first season vaguely when it came out, not religiously or anything, but I watched it. Eventually, I tried to watch more of it, but dropped it somewhere around the point where the redheaded kid was apprenticing under this giant balloon man. Fans of the show will know. They mostly just stood around in a room while the bad guy menaced at them, and they went, we're not strong enough, at least to the best of my recollection. We're doing the same rules as last time with Full Metal Alchemist. I'm only covering the episodes that the first opening covers, which, luckily for this show, encapsulates the entire first season, 13 episodes. Don't worry, we'll come back around to FMA eventually. Now, the hook for these videos is that I'm the guy who doesn't like anime, who gives it a real fair shot. You know, I'm not out here trying to make powerful enemies. I know the anime community has friends in high places. But that being said, if memory serves, I don't think I'm going to be nearly as charitable to the back 11 episodes of the season as I was to Full Metal Alchemist. All right, of course, subbed or dubbed. And dubbed gets there.
Why are you being so mean? You're making him cry, Kachan!
Okay, maybe we give it one more spin. What can I say? The wheel has spoken. So the setup is pretty easy, right? Irredeemable, stuttering, weak-ass nerd has no place in this world of superpowers due to not having one. But his heart and attitude reminds the greatest hero of all what it is to truly be a hero. And because of that, he gets the opportunity to ascend to the greatest heights of superherodom and become that hero's apprentice. It's pretty basic, you know, but I don't think it's without its merit. This might surprise you, but I think the first 2 episodes of this show are actually incredible. This scene at the end where All Might finally confirms that Midoriya can be a hero, it literally brings a tear to my eye. And I've known these characters for like all of 5 seconds. I shouldn't care that much, but it strikes a chord with me. So I guess the show's doing something, right? Holy fuck. Midoriya, well, actually, you know, I don't know what name the fans actually call this character. Do I call him Midoriya or Izuku or Deku? I'll probably end up calling them all 3. Anyway, Deku doesn't really speak to me as a character much at all, which makes the fact I think these first 2 episodes work so well even more bewildering. He's this meek, passive loser that cries at the drop of a hat. And I know he starts as such an extreme of weak, green-haired non-entity so that he can rise to be king of the superheroes or whatever the hell he's gonna do. Until they get to the USJ conflict, and in that tight situation, he comes out of a shell a bit more and uses his smarts to feel more comfortable. And it sucks because I know I'm falling for it. He's gonna become more likable as it goes on for sure, and cooler, and he's gonna be so badass, and he's gonna punch the whole world over. But for these first 13 episodes, and 13 episodes is not a short amount of time, mind you, Izuku doesn't wow me as a main character. The one thing that really saves him is that he's in a world full of superheroes, a world that is constantly telling him that he's just intrinsically not valuable enough to achieve his dream and be able to do what he wants to do. Everyone tells him that. His peers, his family, and at first even his idol. But Deku perseveres through it all. He has the heart of a hero, and that's what matters the most. When I'm thinking about him as an overall character, I like that a lot about him. It's just a shame that right now, in these early episodes, those traits are so often drowned out by him falling over or crying or going, oh! But he reminds even All Might of what it is to truly be a hero, and that says a lot. And that's one of the biggest themes of the show, what it is to truly be a hero. And Midoriya's natural embodiment of those values and mindsets is something to appreciate. And his grit and determination and tenacity towards his goals is something I can get behind for a main character for sure. And I'm sure there's more of it as the show goes on. I guess it's just start of the show growing pains, the parts that I don't like about Deku right now. Luckily, his supporting cast is more immediately likable. I like All Might, both versions of him, the lower key, skinnier version probably more, but his big buff version too. I think the idea of him having to be this unending symbol of power and goodness and having a completely different persona he puts on for that, but in reality he's this weak-looking dude with a much more down-to-earth view of things is pretty cool. That brave face, he tells us, is really that, just a brave face. It mirrors Deku's struggles in trying to live up to the position he's been given. Deku, through all the, albeit up until the end, very low-stakes challenges, has to put on this brave face, push through his history of being this powerless reject, and do what needs to be done to secure a spot in this school. All Might's hard to not like because really all we see him doing is saving lives, being really cool to this tiny loser with a big heart, and having a realistic level of self-doubt. He's someone that the show shows us Deku wants to strive to be, so he basically has to have admirable traits, and admire them I do. Now, we really only have 2 other for-real characters in this show this season, I want to say, that being Uraraka and Ida. Uraraka's main characteristic is that she's just this plain-ass nice girl. She's just pleasant. She's nice to Deku, she seems to be nice to everyone, she acts cutesy, and clearly our main character has a crush on her. And yeah, just completely unassuming, not much to really talk about. I like her well enough, I suppose, but there's just not a lot to say about her. She just seems like a pretty decent person. And lastly, Ida, who may just be my favorite character. I'm not sure I've decided yet, but he could be it. Ida so far seems like one of those classic anime characters where he's just one joke. This dude loves protocol. This dude colored inside the lines straight out of the womb. In fact, he was probably born completely straight-faced as to not distract the doctors. And while I usually range from uncaring to detesting anime characters that are just a joke on legs, Ida somehow escapes that event horizon of dismission. Ida wants to paint by numbers, is very official, analytical, and outspoken, but he's not a bootlicker. He'll just as soon as correct a teacher as he would a student. And in his analysis, he comes to think mistakenly that Deku saw through the scoring of the exam to score a huge amount of points, meaning that Deku was both extremely powerful and intelligent, when really he's just a glass cannon who's a giant superhero nerd. But Ida's also very genuine and humble, it seems. When it's time to vote for a class rep, he votes for who he thinks will fill the role best, not himself. And he makes it a point to do his best to take everything as seriously as the moment calls for. A lot like Uraraka, we don't get to see a whole lot of him in these first 13 episodes, but I think he does a much better job at being more memorable. Now, the other obvious character to talk about is Bakugo, but I don't really know if he's a character at all yet. He's so impenetrable, I don't think I can describe him as one yet. His range is seething and bubbling with rage to explosive rage. That's all this dude really gets to do. I get that he's the other side of the coin to Midoriya. He's loud and an asshole and completely confident of himself, but really all he is uncontrollably angry the whole time. I can only think of one or two moments where his unending fury subsides for a second so we can see that he does actually have a brain in his head and that he can think. There's just nothing there yet to comment on, but I imagine more will come from him. Honestly, my favorite parts about Bakugo are just the shit I made up to fill in the blanks. Maybe Bakugo has a really shitty home life and feels the need to be the strongest amongst his peers because of it. Maybe his home life is pretty decent, but he feels an extreme amount of pressure stemming from there, so he acts out like he's the greatest constantly to not just convince those around him of it, but to convince himself as well. I don't know, like I said, not anything to go on, but there are avenues to make him more interesting and sympathetic for sure. You know, while we're talking about the characters, we might as well knock out the rest of the cast, and I should mention, like a lot of these school-based shows that anime likes to do, there is a serious, flagrant, impossible to ignore cast size problem with this show. I know it's a school setting, so you're gonna have like 20 kids to a class, I get it, but like, this is a superhero school, and the most prestigious one of all. You could have a class size of 10 or 5, and I wouldn't have been taken out of the world at all, man. But no, now we're stuck with such superhero classic like Tape Elbows and Yellow Man. I guess there being more characters with superpowers does imply more interesting shit being able to happen and more fun. I just know deep down in my heart I am not going to end up caring about probably over 80% of these guys. In fact, you know what? We gotta talk about this. How the hell did half of these kids make it into this academy? Isn't this supposed to be the best of the best? But their powers range from utterly busted to completely mundane. Like, how did the purple kid... You know what? Fuck it. A little tier list never hurt anyone. Now, this isn't ranking how much I like the characters. I'm ranking them based on how likely it seems they would have been to get into this school. And I'm going to be calling them by the names I remember them by, or by the thing I remember most about them from either this or my attempted watch through from years ago. I don't know all their names off the top of my head, so deal, I guess. So let's run it down real quick. Bakugo, obviously, he can make giant explosions on a whim, no problem. He's box office, he makes the cut. Uraraka, I can see her powers being useful in situations, and probably a ton I haven't even thought of, but is it really a premier superpower? Doesn't seem crazy useful. Izuku, clearly, he punched a robot the size of a building over, he's here no problem. Todoroki has 2 powers, either of which would land him here no problem, he's in. Who the hell is this mountain face guy? He clearly can't have that staggering of a power since he hasn't used it or even had a line yet. Tailman, I mean the tail looks strong, but what, that's all you got? Earjack Girl would be easily in the what are you doing here tier if the show didn't tell me she could also shoot sonic waves. And I guess we have to take into account this as well. I'm not sure how flexible all these powers are, and I imagine I haven't been shown the extent of any of them yet, but you know, first 13 episodes, that's the cutoff, that's what we're going with. Anyway, with the listening capabilities plus the sonic wave thing, I'd say she makes sense. French laser beam kid just doesn't seem like it would stand out among the litany of other, I assume, great powers that try it out. Just doesn't seem all that versatile, but maybe he could have squeaked in. Flesh hardening kid makes a lot of sense. He can do some damage, take some punishment, and is probably helpful in saving people too. He's in. Sue, I can see it being versatile, but it doesn't seem like a huge X factor to me. Larry Bird, I remember from watching it before, has some sort of shadow demon he's friends with, I think. Seems cool and dangerous. He's in. Girl who can create anything as long as she knows what it's made of. Seems utterly broken and like she will not use it to the fullest of its abilities in nearly any situation, because if she did, it would solve a lot of problems. Yeah, she's in. Electric kid who fries his own brain. I mean, electricity is nice, but he can't control it and he hurts himself after a bit. Doesn't seem like a great combo. Weird grows body parts on his weird arms guy. I mean, he looks jacked, but is having an extra ear or foot on the end of your arms really gonna be all that much of a help? This dumb looking guy, I don't know what he does, and he was in that life or death scenario, right? Didn't make an impact. Can't be that sick. What are you doing here? Purple kid, what are you doing here? How the hell did this kid pass the blow up the robots exam? He seems useless, and I assume he'll only be effective in gag ways where it's like, whoops, my powers were accidentally effective. And I know it may be brave to say this, but I think I hate this kid like really a lot. I'm sure that is a blazing hot take. It may not even just be brave to say it. It may border on heroic. Ida, my man, has super speed, applicable in a million situations, hits hard, runs fast, obviously he's in. Tape Elbows is supposed to be like Spider-Man, I imagine, but does he have super strength? Can he whip around using them? Is he wicked at using it? How did you blow up robots either? I don't know how he made it. Pink Demon Girl, I think, shoots acid out of her hands and for some reason looks like that, unless she can shoot that stuff a mile or something. I don't know why she's here. I'm probably wrong, I realize, with a lot of these. I don't know the extents or use cases for a lot of them, but still, looking at this list and knowing their powers as much as I do, I just have to ask, these are the schmucks that made it into the top class at the top school? I don't know why Deku was stressing. He probably could have walked in there and just knocked a sandwich off a table by accident, and the school probably would have signed him up. The purple kid's in? Deku enrolls and he's instantly summa cum laude. Why is the principal wearing Tim's? And while we're here, are the costumes all supposed to look purposely bad? I know Deku has a good excuse, but is the joke that they're supposed to look like they're designed by 15-year-olds? I know they actually do design their own costumes, but if that's the idea, mission accomplished. But it doesn't save them from being either totally forgettable or just shit. Luckily, they're outdone by the main villain. Surely this whole hand thing is something uber important to him, like they're the hands of the people he's killed or his dead family or something. But once again, it doesn't stop it from just looking impossibly stupid. Oh yeah, the whole crux of the series was the openings, right? I should probably mention that. I mean, hey, it sounds pretty good, probably looks even better. It perfectly captures the enormous problem of too many characters in this show, as most of their most memorable moments in this opening is when they get to be a PNG for a split second. The whole opening is basically capturing the feeling that Midoriya has of being down and worthless, and then the feeling he has of having a shot and striving towards being like All Might. Honestly, that's all I can really glean from it. It makes all the important characters look appropriately cool, sounds good, has good energy. But I don't think it was good enough to trick you into liking the show when you really didn't. I think it's just a pretty middle-of-the-road, good opening. Anyway, the whole world and story so far seems pretty unassuming, nothing impressive at all. It's a world where something like every 3 to 4 people have superpowers, but the world doesn't seem to have changed to accommodate that fact much. I know the powers range from utterly humdrum to very exotic, so how are you going to make an infrastructure to accommodate anything? But still, you'd think there'd be some change to everyday life. I also like the fact that the powers have such a wide range. Some are insane, some are so useless they might even be annoying to have. Anyway, the world just seems to be our regular one, except some villain pops up each day and our heroes show up to do a catastrophic level of property damage. The economy must be great, so many construction and cleanup jobs going around. The only really fantastical element of the setting is that there's a superhero Hogwarts, as far as I can tell. That's about it. The laymen look and act the same as real life. The city looks the same. I mean, come on, man. This place isn't zoned to let a 50-foot tall lady through.
My only weakness! I need at least a 2-lane road if I'm gonna make my way through here!
Actually, I wouldn't mind that being a running joke, a hero not being able to contribute because of their, oh no, my one weakness moment, and it's something super mundane or something you wouldn't think of. On that note, I should mention, I think the comedy in the show isn't half bad, actually, which I think for me at least is insanely rare in anime. When the show tries to tell a legit joke, I think most of the time it lands. Now that may just be because Bakugo going, "Grah, I'll blow you up," and Deku is a nerd, and Midoriya going, "Whoa, girls, whoa, big fight, oh, my little pissant weakling." Like, those moments don't activate the part of my brain where that's supposed to be read as a joke. They may be intended as jokes, but if they are, they're just so unfunny that I guess they fly so low they aren't picked up on my joke radar. Like Giant Lady's weakness, that's funny, and lines like these from Deku.
I'm actually going to be a hero. Or I'll just die. Deku's what Kacchan calls me to make fun of me.
I like Deku. It could make a great hero name. Plus, I think it sounds kinda cute.
Deku it is!
Those are actually decent jokes. And anime, even having a couple of those for my uneducated ass, is pretty surprising. Also, side note, they're allowing swearing in anime aimed at kids now? That's crazy. Imagine if they let Dragon Ball characters swear back in the day. It would have blown my little mind. What actually blew my mind so far in this show is the action, and so that there's so little of it at all. Every time you see a gif or a clip from this show online, it's of a character doing a big attack or series of moves with so many hit effects and flashy visuals tied to it, it feels like you're watching a set of Guilty Gear. So I was sort of expecting, I don't know, any action out of this first season at all. Most fights are settled with one punch, and if they're not, they really suffer with what I'm going to coin as the extremely catchy page-to-screen time dilation, slow motion, stand the fuck around and think to yourself problem, or otherwise known as PTSD DSMS TFAATTYP. Now this problem, which is a plague on a ton of anime, and honestly why I stopped watching it in my younger days, is rampant in this this show. Since there are so few conflicts in this first season though, it's not as noticeable, but it's still definitely here. The problem is this, it's that instead of the show just doing the action scenes and letting the characters fight, between every interaction, sometimes even every punch, the show slows down and lets the characters have enormous thought trays explaining to the audience why they're doing what they're doing, or talk to one another, or why the fight is going the way it's going, or why they're winning or losing.
Are you really foolish enough to strategize in front of your enemy?
I feel like I'm gonna have to use that clip a lot in the future. I'm still planning on making a video on this issue that a lot of modern anime seems to have, so I won't expound on this point too much, but just know that I hate it. I hate it a lot. You may be able to tell from this video I posted years ago. Where I think the show stutters the most is in its pacing and storytelling. I know this is an anime based on a manga, and those are traditionally stretched out to be punishingly long. It's just a classical format of the medium, but I don't think something being the norm really makes it any better. In the first 13 episodes of the show, the first season of the show, what happens? Deku meets All Might, gets powers, passes a test to go to school, has some run-of-the-mill school episodes, and finally gets into a pretty large conflict where, like I said, not much real action is present.
What the heck?
First catch of the day. Nothing personal, kid.
It's not really much for a first season, you know? At the end of the day, there's just not a lot of meat on the bone here. Like, when you really take a look at it, it takes Ida an entire episode to run out of a door. It takes him about half an episode to think about the idea and then commit to doing it, and then it takes him another half of an episode to actually get to the door. Ida, the guy with super speed. There was this actually really funny moment somewhere in the middle of the season where the entire student body is freaking out over an alarm and the characters are all squished up in a crowd of people. Like, really, they're just uncomfortable as people jostle around a bit and largely are just standing there, but it's played like they're fucking dying. Seriously, they're reaching for each other and there's this screaming electric guitar in the background like you're watching the most intense action your eyes have ever had the privilege of receiving light from. But really, they're just standing there, slightly uncomfortable, as a situation that we learn isn't an emergency at all happens. Like, we know it's not an emergency as the guitar is popping off. It's hilarious. And it's really a shame, too, because the show, the animation, and the art style both look really nice all the time, basically. It's so good, Deku even grows his face back to be a part of it more. No, but really, it does look great. And the action, or whenever there's an excuse to have a demonstration of real power, looks sick. Like, the impact that's captured is wicked. And the sound design and everything. Too bad there's so little of it. And I mean, man, maybe my brain is cherry-picking the stuff I didn't like in the future seasons, and I don't remember a lot of it at all. But I don't think that the PSTD, SMS, FATYP gets any better. In fact, I remember it being a lot worse. Overall, I went into the series expecting to dislike it a lot more, but really, I think it's pretty inoffensive. All of its problems aren't deal breakers for me yet. There's only 13 episodes, and problems can be fixed, and new problems can and will arise. The characters are inoffensive. The story, the world, the conflict, everything's just inoffensive. It doesn't really give you much to think about. It's weird. I think the first two episodes may be one of the finest set of episodes to serve as an opening I can think of. I think the show utterly nails it. It captures a lot of emotion and the heart that is the center of Midoriya's characters while introducing us to the world of superpowers, and have a lot of fun doing it. Then the show stumbles pretty mightily with the introduction of the dull superhero school and the exactly 200,000 characters you don't care about. Yeah, the show is literally called My Hero Academia. You got me, I know, but I think the world is just lacking in stuff that makes it special. And if there is stuff, I mean, this is your first season. You should probably make an effort to show some of it off, right? It's funny. I think the first two episodes are generational bangers, so I think the opening to the show rocks, but then the next 11 range from somewhat interesting to dull, so I think the opening to the show this season isn't great at the same time. Patreon shoutouts, you want to see a brand new video from me, you head to YouTube Release, you can support me on Patreon for just a few bucks, link as always is in the description below the video. Biggest shoutouts of all go to my top patrons, a flock of plain cakes who took up horse riding so they could be a mounted skeleton knight in hell rather than just a lowly skeleton infantryman, A2AX Phoenix who doesn't feel turbulence on flights due to their body naturally reacting to it and doing a counteracting movement, Anthony Collins, who I saw rock climb up Niagara Falls, Insomnite, who was crowned King of Earth by the Molten Men, which means they get a pretty big studio apartment in the core of the planet, Liquor Cause I Know Her, who got a river to stop flowing so they could cross it by asking nicely, Midnight Balsams, who was the first certified sky pirate due to a technicality when they maybe jumped from one plane to another and had to take over the controls, Knights by Satire, who can shuffle a deck of cards into any configuration they want, no sleight of hand, they're just cosmically lucky, Slowkey, who was so good at haggling they sold a heated blanket to a snowman, Tater of Tots, who knocked over the last tallest mountain, so that's why Everest takes the cake at the moment. That one Turian who got sick of driving semi-trucks, so they built their own final truck. Trendkill, who won a Tekken tournament by using the oft-unseen tactic of using taunt jet upper in real life. And Yushu, who made friends with a lion due to their shared interest of running down and tackling gazelles. And of course, my other fuck you money patrons, Blanco, Cameron Lowry, Gene Cree, Potato Stream, Sane Expedite, The Former Meaning of Life, The 1AM Party, Vector, and Whitrow. And my god overanalyzers, Two Boots Are Beat, Aang, Andrew Watford, On Zero Weeze, Blade Dancer, Buniverse, Carlo Ren, Chandler Crump, Chase Wing, Cosmic Newbie, Derek Chapman, Dr. Xerox, Dominic Saint, Emma, Aaron Grace, Fire Lizard 44, I'm a Match, Jake Hogan, Jackson, Jeremy Rubenstein, Jimith, John Warhammer, Justin Scott, Coco Rez, Mac, Matthew Lang, Michael Fellon, Mitchell Gobrek, Nick, Nicholas Abbott, Peter Bandera, Peter Bayron, Philip Jindra, Pogger White, Rocket Mist, Ryan Maxwell, St. Charlie, Salvar, Scoobert, Shane Antonacci, Silk Toast, Science Person, Smarty Marty, Princess Useless Backwards, Super Snipper, That Blind Ginger, Totoro Bobo's Musical Emporium, and some kind of Bareface. Next up, a video I've been meaning to do for years.